In Argentina, a patient has become the second ever person to naturally recover from HIV. Nicknamed Esperanza Patient, the woman became a scientific curiosity after the virus appears to have vanished from her body, making her only the second person believed to have cured herself of HIV without any drugs or any other treatment. Dr. Matthias Lichterfeld is from the Rangon Institute at Harvard University and co-lead author of the report. Well, thanks for joining us here on the programme. Well, it's been described by your fellow author as the miracle of the human immune system. Just how reliable are the tests?
Yeah, so that's really an important point. In this particular patient, we were able to have massive amounts of cells that we could look at. We actually analyzed 1.2 billion cells from this patient to look for traces of HIV, and we failed to detect any HIV that is intact in this patient. We also had an opportunity to look into the placenta. She gave birth last year, and that placenta tissue was available for research, and we looked into 500 million cells from the placenta, and we also failed to identify intact HIV. So we have used massive amounts of cells to look for HIV, and we have failed to detect any intact HIV in this patient.
It sounds incredible. But do you understand why or even how this is happening?
Yeah, it's important to understand that HIV really is a disease that usually doesn't get cured. Once you have it for the rest of your life. The treatment that is currently available is only suppressing HIV. It's not getting rid of it. And this patient is really very different in that sense. It really looks like HIV has been completely eliminated from her system. And before, we believe these types of patients don't exist at all. So we now are in a position that we can identify these patients and learn from patients and understand how such a remarkable disease outcome is possible.
And what are the chances now then, would you say, of reproducing this in other people suffering from HIV?
Yeah, it's hard to say. It's important to understand that 2 persons in the world have been cured of HIV by getting a highly toxic bone marrow transplant. That was in the setting of these patients having cancer at the same time. So they received these bone marrow transplants for cancer, but simultaneously that also cured HIV. That's obviously something that cannot be done large scale. It's a very toxic procedure. But I believe what we don't know currently is how many patients are out there who are cured, who are spontaneously cured. That's actually not known at this point. And once we understand that better, we can make better, to develop better treatments for inducing that in a larger proportion of patients.
Is that because there's still a stigma around HIV? I mean, it is one of the biggest killers in the world, especially in places like Africa.
Yeah, no, HIV remains a huge problem. There is this excellent treatment that is available now in suppressing HIV, but as I said before, it doesn't get rid of HIV by itself. So really, people have to take treatment for the rest of their life, specifically people who get infected at young ages. So the patient that we are describing, she got infected at age 30. So if there's no cure, these patients have to take treatment for 50, 60 continuous years. That is a huge challenge in many situations, and that's why it's so important to find a cure for HIV.
Well, considering how long HIV has been around with us now, are you disappointed, or do you think we need a similar global approach to eradicating the virus as much as the approach we've taken towards dealing with COVID-19?
There's a lot of investment going on already to find a cure for HIV. It's actually remarkable how much the US government, for example, is investing in finding a cure for HIV. Also, the Gates Foundation and multiple additional non-government organizations are invested into it. So I believe there is a lot of activity, and we see undeniable progress in this field. And I'm optimistic that over the next couple of years, there's additional progress that we're going to see.